Peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. I had to come back and get into this week's episode of Your Honor. The name of it is part four. It could be donuts. I'm not a big fan. You might not care about this, but I'm not a big fan of them taking the simple route with just naming the episodes, part four, part five, part six, so on and so forth, up to 10. But that's what they've chosen to do, and that's kind of insignificant. But let's get into it. Um, Quick housekeeping. It's easier for me to go live, so that's why I'm doing that versus editing a video and all of that. It's just time saver. Another quick note, entertainment wise. Shout out to Namdi Asimwa. If you haven't checked out his new movie on Amazon Prime, Sylvie's Love, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do a review on it later. But just shout out to Namdi for adding balance to the content that we have to view out here. Black film fans, urban cinema, whatever the hell the term is, movies starring black people. Shout out to him for trying to add some balance to the game and the projects that he's involved with, and even bringing to fruition. So he was an executive producer on A Nation of Beasts. Damn, or Beast of whatever, the joint on Netflix with Idris Elba. I can't think of the name of it, but he did that. He was a producer and had a part in Crown Heights was another one. But he's just behind the scenes doing his thing, and this is all very important to me because he started out as an NFL football player and was a standout NFL football player during his time with the Oakland Raiders as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to say he was All Pro or Pro Bowl. He had a couple of seasons where he was a pretty significant figure. So for him to transition over to to the silver screen and to movie making on any level, whether it's independent or otherwise, just shout out to the brother, man. And like I said, for going out here and adding some balance. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't like the edgier movies and the street tales and blah blah blah, but I am a big fan of balance. Check that one out. It actually stars Namdi as well as Tessa Thompson from the Creed franchise, as well as Ragnarok with Thor. But it's a love story set in the 50s, early 60s maybe, and I liked it. I dug it a lot. Also, check out The Photograph. I might come back and do a review on that one. I know The Photograph is old, but I think it's good to group those two projects together for a reason I'll make later. Part four. I'm seeing if anybody came into the live stream. I only know about 2 people that really care for this show. But part four, like I said, it could have been called Donuts. So I got about 4 or 5 things to talk through here, and the first one I'll get to is that I'm noticing a pattern that it looks like every 4th episode in all of these series, something happens that really pisses you off, or it's a major game changer, that shakes up the cast. And we get that, and I'm mentioning this from Fargo. You saw it with Dr. Senator Glenn Turman's character. And here we see it with Your Honor, where Kofi Jones, a character some of us might have started to really dig. They had a hell of a cliffhanger going from at the end of part 3 that leads us up to this week's show and should have had you very interested in what was going to transpire once Kofi confronted Carlo in his cell. I mentioned last week, I thought maybe he would try to save his life by, like I said, he's a charming dude, witty, quick on his feet. That maybe he would have tried to sell, or he would have tried to explain the situation so that he could survive. Immediately into the episode, throw that out the window. Kofi is dead. I mean, I'm not laughing at the death, but I'm pissed off because, we don't know how. They had already told us, evidently, Rocco is very nice with his hands because he damn near killed another person, which is what landed him in Angola in prison. And here he is now. He's killed Kofi Jones with his bare hand. He had some size on Kofi Jones, but we didn't. Are they going to do a flashback and show us what happened based on Carlo and his father? Talking in that interrogation or visiting room or whatnot when his father is called down to the jail to about the incident. He doesn't give us any indication that Kofi explained anything to him. He's just like, Dad, I had to do what I had to do. Mom said you weren't handling it, so I handled it. And Jimmy Baxter is like, you're like 2 weeks or whatever away from being a free man, and now you go and expose yourself here to a lengthier sentence. Arguably, it could have come down to self-defense if Sheriff Royce didn't interject him in it the way that I'll get into in a minute. So that pissed me off, I like Kofi, and I had some hopes for him as a character, but he is no longer involved. Hell of a job by the actor. I can't remember his name. But I look forward to seeing dude in future projects. So anyway, there was a cover-up because Royce, and I told you last week with the scene in the courtroom where they stripped Kofi down to inspect him for tats, and they've kind of gone over they've kind of overshot or exaggerated, black people in the judicial system or the judicial process. And now here we have again with this cover-up situation where this sheriff has so much power and leans on the coroner to make this go away. So there's no there's no murder that took place on his watch in his facility. And I just don't know if I believe that I know these are poor black people or they're prisoners. Nobody gives a damn about these people. But it just seems like this could possibly not go away. Another interesting thing here is that a bit of a metaphor or parallel with the Volvo being scrapped and, carried away, towed away, and they show it going to the scrap yard and it getting scrapped the same way that they're loading up Kofi's body in the opening, carrying his body, transporting it to the coroner. And then once you see the coroner tear apart or go through the autopsy and see what happened, and then the sheriff comes in and makes this go away, the Volvo and Kofi, it's kind of a similar ending, and it's just collateral damage. So I don't know if you picked up on that, but that's one thing that I noticed. Lee Delamere isn't buying it. She came down. She came down and visited Kofi, saw what was going on. She was aware that he was getting ready to be freed, that he was getting ready. The charges were getting ready to be dropped, and so on and so forth. And she's just very suspicious of what the sheriff is telling her, and kind of the lack of details. And for some reason, she just doesn't want to see this young man's story, his life go out like this with no one being concerned about it. The next thing that we see, my next note was we get a new character in Margot Martindale, or Elizabeth Guthrie, who is I don't know if she's a state senator or a senator, but she happens to be the mother-in-law of Adam Desiato, and she inserts herself into the mix. And one thing that she immediately tears up or threatens is all of the background or the alibi that the judge was trying to build and getting his son when they went, supposedly when he was trying to tell him that they went and made the visit to the cemetery that they never made. But she actually went to the cemetery that day and saw that they hadn't left any flowers, a card, or they just hadn't been there. So that's going to be something to tuck away that may come back later, because at some point I'm imagining that Michael is the judge, Bryan Cranston, is going to have to square this away with her and either get her to buy in, which she probably would because it's her grandson that's involved. But that's another loose end that now exists. But this weird thing happens once Elizabeth shows up to get Adam out of, to pick him up from school, because he gets into this fight after his partner made a foul comment about their teacher / Adam's girlfriend or love interest. And Elizabeth shows up and she introduces the whole notion of donuts being symbolic or whatever of having holes in them. So it's kind of the premise of the whole show. It's holes in all of this, and you know that's where discretion can be. That's how we got here. To sum it all up, is Judge Michael Desiato chose to use some discretion in this situation and has messed everything up and set all of these things in motion. So Elizabeth comes back to the house and is going to prepare this shrimp, this meal that the judge has already invited Charlie over. They had another rough encounter at the barber shop, and the judge is talking about his conscience. And you know, we agreed to hurt one person to hurt him. Now the dude is dead, you know, and I've got this on my hands. I got to carry this. I'm also trying to understand what's the ramifications of all of this. And that's what they're kind of sorting out. And Charlie reminds him that, bro, you asked me to do something. I didn't ask you any questions about it. I just did it. And as a result, now we're in the middle of all of this, and you just have to carry this. You know, you wanted your son to be free. You wanted this to go away. We made that happen. Things went sideways, as they often do. You got to live with this, but you can't take me down and anybody else that's involved in this. And, you know, the judge tells him, man, you take my breath away, that the way that you're able to compartmentalize this and move forward like nothing happened. And, again, that's how we got here. Also, further making this even murkier is Nancy Costello, the detective. I did not realize that she is the detective who was looking into the murder or the killing of Robin Desiato, the mother to Adam and the wife of Michael. And I didn't understand the timeline at first either of when she passed away. I think I started picking up on that maybe last episode, maybe even in part 2. I thought based on her vehicle, I thought maybe she had been killed years earlier. But, you know, she's only been gone for a year now. The other thing that I didn't understand was, why was she in that neighborhood? Charlie lets us know, he gives us some background on why she would have been in a place that she shouldn't have been in. She was a photographer, and she was at that store taking pictures, and something happened. Well, she was killed. Now we saw that gang come up and bug Adam when he was over there setting up his memorial or vigil thing for his mom. So now I'm wondering if the killing of Robin is going to come back into play at some point to tie this all together, even adding another layer. What else do I have here? So they all have this dinner. The detective is there. We saw the dog. Django goes and gets the bloody article of clothing or whatever that was, towel. Costello sees that. She's gonna tuck that away. They also passed the pictures around at the table where Adam had the bruise on his chest. Costello is probably going to see that. So a lot of different parts of a lot of different pieces of evidence are being disclosed or divulged. Also at this dinner, we have Elizabeth, we have Costello, we have Charlie, we have Adam and Michael, and then who pops up to make things even murkier is Lee Delamere. And she wants to come in. Elizabeth is checking her out like, damn, it's just a year later and you already have a new love interest. And then I remember her because she used to be your intern. Now you're romantically involved with her. So this is, is it going to be a protagonistic relationship between Elizabeth and Michael? Because he's going to need her in the near future, it seems. But she brings up the story of Kofi Jones being killed in jail. And that morning when they were getting ready for work and school, father and son had a discussion, and Michael tried to tell Adam that you don't need to know anything about this. Bad stuff happens in jail. Bad people are in jail. And we didn't have anything to do with what caused him to die. So don't add this onto your conscience that's already digging at you. You got to focus on, you got to live your life. So one thing that Adam does at the dinner is he starts asking questions to Lee Delamere about the death or, the death of Kofi Jones. And he's doing this really to his own detriment. And he's messing up his father's housekeeping efforts, to make this situation go away. So Pops gets him outside after he walks away from the table, and he's like, yo, Michael, man, do you understand what I've been doing and what I'm going through and how difficult it is to manage this whole situation? And then you sit here working against me and bringing up stuff that we didn't need to know. And then he reminds him of what the truth is, that Kofi stole the car, and when he stole the car, the Volvo, Robin's car, he killed the kid. He had the accident with Rocco Baxter. And he's like, that's how you need to have this in your mind, and you need to move on from this and let this go. The other thing that's going on here is Jimmy Baxter, the father of the deceased motorcyclist, Rocco. I mentioned, he pops up earlier in the episode when he goes to see his son Carlo in prison or in jail the morning after he's killed Kofi Jones. He's also under a lot of pressure trying to manage this situation as well and to do it the best way. And he's being pushed by his wife to respond to the death. Now, the funny thing here is that's kind of gone to the wayside, or maybe it was a dead end because they were looking for DNA, and there is no DNA in the system for Adam with the inhaler. I guess there was no patient information on the inhaler, Adam's name or address or anything. I guess wasn't on there. So that's kind of still out of play at the moment. But Mrs. Baxter, I can't think of her name. She wants blood. So even now that Carlo has taken Kofi Jones off of the chessboard, she still wants a response to the street game that Kofi comes from, which is desire. And the wife is beefing with her daughter, Fia, Rocco's sister, who is like going into something about she's struggling with her faith and why should she believe in this God who made the decision to call her brother home, and all of this uproar, upheaval in the Baxter household causes Jimmy Baxter to explode, and he orders a hit, which is for Frankie, the dude with the red beard, to go over to the house of Kofi Jones, the Jones family that we've seen a few times, because Lee and the judge went over there to take the personal belongings of Kofi to the family earlier in the episode. Now Frankie goes over there and plants a bomb in the house and blows it up. And the brother of Kofi happened to not be home. He's walking home when it explodes. And then that was kind of how the episode ended. With the Baxter standing on the balcony, I believe it's of their restaurant. It looks like he owns this restaurant, and the explosion goes off, and there's a moment. The outro is is Jimmy and his wife standing there embraced. She's hugging him, pleased that he's done what she wanted him to do. Another interesting thing here is that Adam and Fia, the sister, they run into each other. They have an encounter when Adam goes to this vigil for Rocco, and Fia and him bump into each other. She knows she's gonna remember who he is. He knows who she is from social media, and it's almost like Henry and Miguel, the kids in The Undoing, that just ended a couple of weeks ago. The miniseries that was on HBO. So that's kind of a wrap up or a recap of the episode. Going back to the donuts really quickly, when the principal went to expel, not suspend, but to expel Adam for shoving his friend Wesley, the principal is like, when it's any form of violence, we have to expel, the offender or whatever. And Elizabeth is like, donuts have holes in them for a reason, and that reason is so people can exercise discretion. And she's like, my grandson doesn't have to be penalized and his future ruined with an expulsion on his record, since there wasn't a whole lot of violence here, and I am who I am, by the way, and his father is who his father is. His mother just was. It's just a year with his mother being killed. He's under a lot of pressure. Cut the kid some slack, and just give him a suspension. So he's home for 3 days on suspension. Already mentioned, we got to know Franny Latimer. I mean, not Franny Latimer, but Fia Baxter. We got to know her a little bit more. Oh, and then the last thing that I'll close with is 2330. The leader of the street gang. I don't know if his name is Little Mo. I don't think they've really mentioned his name. I know some phone calls have been made to him. But he goes to visit the Jones household and is out front on the stoop with the young brother. And he gives him, a bankroll and tells him go get some sneakers. He said tennis. I guess that's a New Orleans thing. But he says go get you some sneakers, get some food for the family. And he said some kind of phrase. I don't know if that was French. But when he gives him the money, he's like, gives him the bankroll and says like something. And he's like, he asked the young man, do you know what that means? And the kid is like, nah, I don't. And he's like, read a book, little ninja. And it's just awkward and ironic because Kofi was smart as hell. I believe he was. And even the game ended up killing him and taking him off the chessboard. And he was making all of the right moves until he made the wrong decision to go challenge Carlo, straight up. Um, so that's ironic that you would tell his kid brother, read a book, smarten up, come work for me, and he's like, you can lead a long life in this game. But he just watched his older brother get killed at like 19 or 18, 19 or 20 or something. So that's a little ironic. There was one other thing that I thought was, the whole basketball court visit with Charlie, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., and going and talking to his police officer that he has, who he tells him, they were taken down when he went to go visit him and have this discussion to see what was the status of them being connected to Kofi and Desire and Lil Mo. They were taking the basketball hoops down, and he's like, "What's going?" And Charlie was like, "What's going on here?" to the detective, and he's like, "Well, next to prison, I think he said next to being incarcerated, the next dense area of gathering where criminal activity is discussed and plotted and planned. The next place that happens is at the basketball courts." So trying to be proactive, take down the basketball hoops so that nobody gathers here to discuss crime and criminal activity. And Charlie is like, "Look, y'all gonna have to have a better idea, because if you want to be my police chief once I win this election, put the hoops back up. You got to get these people something." So that was an interesting little discussion right there. And I want to say that's pretty much it for this episode. Thought it was one other thing that I had to say. Basketball courts, Franny. And Franny, I'm assuming, will be able to tell her parents when this blows up that the Desiatos are involved. Franny will be able to tell either Frankie or not Franny, Fia will be able to tell either Frankie or her father, Jimmy, hey, the Desiato kid was at the vigil. I've seen him before. I'm imagining, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's happening now that I can imagine will crop back up in the next 2 or 3 episodes as this thing starts to completely unwind. And it'll be interesting to see what exactly what's the straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back. Is it Lee Delamere asking questions? Does Frankie put 2 and 2 together for the Baxter family? Does a war of some kind break out between Desire and the Baxter organization as a result of this, the home being blown up? Does Detective Costello put 2 and 2 together? Does Elizabeth prod, Costello and create something? It's a lot of this stuff is this is tangled up pretty good at this point. Anyway, pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Peace.